Good morning, everyone. This panel working together was the nexus of it actually was a Harrisburg Patriot article back in January in which the columnist suggested that the relationship between the business community, the conservative movement, the Republican Party was irretrievably broken, and that they had cited national data and evidence of several issues here in Pennsylvania to establish that the media established a purity test that said that, if you disagree on an issue, then, the movement itself will attack you, which all of us it's not true. NFIB, we're a small business organization, and I'm proud to say that we are a sponsor of the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference, as are others here at this table. And that's important to note, that we already are working together. And if we listen to our last speakers, we listened to the speakers last night and yesterday, we all know that we're working under the Ronald Reagan's original premise, and that is, you're my 80% friend, not my 20% enemy. Well, with us today are some experts in the various industries and fields and in politics who can talk about those ways that we are working together. If there is a purity test out there, I think the Democrats are the only ones who put it into practice. Here in central Pennsylvania, you may be aware of a state representative, Patty Kim. She represents the city of Harrisburg. And Patty Kim is the darling of the left, is taking the lead on increasing the minimum wage, as well as a host of other issues. Well, Representative Kim made a mistake. She voted for a very watered-down change, an improvement, if you will, to Pennsylvania's prevailing wage law. And as a result, it cost her the endorsement of her party's nomination in her re-election this year. So joining us today to talk about the ways that the conservatives are working together, whether it's in business, the party, or through the Tea Party movement, we have Gene Barr to my immediate left, who is the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. He was elected to that role in 2011. He spent more than 35 years in public service and government affairs, and I know it looks a lot longer. Like you said. A lot longer. I've dreamed about this opportunity to introduce my colleague Gene Barr. So. He was a local government elected official in the Philadelphia area, served for more than 10 years, and he's a graduate of St. Joseph's University. To his left is State Representative Steve Bloom from Cumberland County, first elected in 2010. He's a practicing lawyer, professor, and author. Many of you are familiar with his books, A Believer's Guide to Legal Issues, and They Cross the Line, A Believer's Guide to Religious Freedom. And I will point out that Representative Bloom has books out on sale in the lobby. Copies are available for you out there. To his left is Michael Geer, the founding president of the Pennsylvania Family Institute, again, an organization that's celebrating its 25th anniversary. He also is the founding member of the Reach Alliance, which is Pennsylvania's, I think, first and foremost school choice advocacy organization. And prior to that, he was a producer in TV news in Pittsburgh with WPXI. To my right, Robert Gleason is the chairman of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. No stranger to the pro-growth free market sectors. He was the CEO of the family business, the Gleason Agency, for a lot of years. It was an insurance company based out in western Pennsylvania. And to his right, Anastasia Probilski with FreedomWorks and also Kitchen Table Patriots in Bucks County. She's the founder of that movement and also is a registered nurse. And last to her right, Diana Reimer, who is the national coordinator for Tea Party Patriots, an organization that started like many of those in the room in 2009. She has something in common with the president. She's a community organizer. I dare say much more effective and working for better activities and outcomes. But she also is a Navy wife and mother. So to start off our program on why it's important and how we can work together, I'd like to ask Diana to come up and lead the row.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, it's bad enough that it's 8 o'clock in the morning, but then I have to be up here first. I don't think that's fair. Well, the reality of this movement, the Tea Party movement, is that people from all walks of life, religious beliefs, and political parties came together for a common cause: out-of-control spending by our government and a tax and spend mentality of those in the administration. In the last 5 years, the movement has evolved into a very strong political force. At Tea Party Patriots, we believe in fiscal responsibility, a debt-free future for you and generations to come, constitutionally limited government, your personal freedom and your rights, free market economics, economic freedom to grow jobs, and your opportunities. We envision a nation where personal freedom is cherished and where all Americans are treated equally, assuring our ability to pursue the American dream. People from these conservative grassroots Tea Party groups have run for local offices in their communities. At Tea Party Patriots, we support principle over party. We are an educational resource, we provide training to our local coordinators, and we are nonpartisan. Tea Party Patriots is a 501c4 nonprofit that does not endorse candidates, but we do have an affiliated PAC, which is called Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund, which just got started. Yet there is confusion out there. The news media paints the Tea Party movement as fractured and misinformed. They claim we won't work with others. None of these claims are true. We are united more than ever. We all believe in the core principles. We are willing to work with others, Republicans, Democrats, and any group who shares our core values and principles. And if there is a common cause, we're there to work with them. The news media also labels candidates from various groups as Tea Party candidates, even if they're not affiliated with us. And it's not only the news media. There are some Tea Party people that claim they are Tea Party candidates, and they falsely claim our label. Case in point, when Governor Corbett ran for office 4 years ago, there was a self-proclaimed Tea Party candidate that wanted to be on the ballot. State committees and volunteers worked tirelessly to prove this so-called Tea Party candidate was not eligible to be on the ballot. I was one of the volunteers representing Philadelphia Tea Party Patriots. The important lesson here is if he had gotten on the ballot and received 25% of the vote, he would have been a political party. A political party claiming the Tea Party name. He would have been able to nominate people to run for office throughout the state because he had formed a board. So he would have been a Tea Party political party. And there's another misconception out there. The news media claim that the Tea Party is not satisfied with the GOP. Well, that very well might be, but if we're not satisfied with the GOP, we're not satisfied with the Democrats either, because the Tea Party movement is made up of people from all political parties and all beliefs. It's about principle. The principles outlined so clearly in our Constitution: personal freedom, economic freedom, and a debt-free future. We are people who put those principles above party affiliation. And we're willing to work with anyone in any party who feels the same. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce State Representative Steve Bloom.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I want to offer my thoughts on this topic, first of all, in a spirit of humility. I do not stand up here proclaiming that I know how to get things done or how to work together. I've had some successes, which I've been very pleased with, and I've had some failures in this realm as well. So I've learned a few lessons, but by no means do I have all the answers or do I know the formula for getting things done and working together. Think first about the system that we are in, this political system we have. It was designed by our founders to be an intentionally complex process. It is literally designed to generate discussion, discord, debate. That's the whole purpose, the checks and the balances, the opportunity for citizen input, for stakeholder input in the process of ultimately determining what the laws of our land will be. So out of the gate, bear in mind that controversy is a feature, not a bug of the system. So we should expect that there will be controversy, there will be disagreement. One of the key things that I found in getting things done is, first of all, you have to get a seat at the table. For me, that was running for election, gathering signatures, knocking on doors, and ultimately being elected and sworn in as a state rep. Once that happens, you still need some credibility to maintain a seat of influence at the table. That comes from you guys. That comes from citizen activists who are out there proclaiming our conservative cause, working for our conservative cause, and making sure that as conservatives, we do have a seat at the table, that we're part of the discussion and setting policy in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. When it comes time to get to the table and talk about ideas and try to make a difference, one of the things that I think is so key for us is that we present good ideas that are well messaged, that resonate with people, that are crafted in a way that makes it almost impossible for anyone to oppose them. Examples I can think of from my experience, the governor last night talked about the elimination of the Pennsylvania inheritance tax on family farms. That was my bill in the House, and I presented that bill as a bill designed to keep our Pennsylvania, thank you, to keep our Pennsylvania family farmers farming. When you design that idea in that way, you create a hero that people can connect with, the family farmer, and you create a villain that people can be against, which in this case is the death tax, the government coming in and interfering with the ability of our farmers to keep farming. Present an idea that way, it's very hard for anyone to be against it. Here we were trying to cut a tax, and it got virtually unanimous support. I think there was one vote against it in the House when it finally came up for the vote in the House. All the Democrats but one, all the Republicans on board, and ultimately became law because it was a good idea, well presented, well crafted, and crafted in a way where there was a hero and a villain that people could relate to. The environment we're in is multidimensional. Even for me as a member of the House, when I consider how we're going to work together to get things done, I'm not just talking about working with House members. I'm not just talking about working with Senate members. Not just talking about working with members of the executive branch. There are all these other factors involved. There's the media. You got to think about how are you going to relate to the media? What's your media strategy? How are you going to connect with the different advocacy groups that are out there? How are you going to connect with the grassroots? It's a multi-dimensional environment, and you need to be focused on the big picture of all the complexity of the different moving parts. We need to make sure that in thinking about ideas, we're willing to take risks and move forward and not just sit around and gripe about things we're frustrated with. It's very easy to sit on the sidelines and gripe. It's a lot harder to craft a positive message and get out there on the playing field and advance that message. For me, a big part of the strategy is faith. These things are bigger than me, for sure, bigger than all of us. I don't have control over many of the elements that I'm working in, and so I pray. I pray for my enemies, my adversaries, my opponents, and I pray for my friends, allies, and supporters. And I think, for me, faith has a role in this whole process. Then, the last element that I think is perhaps the most important, and again, I don't always pull this off, is operating with personal respect for all the players at all the levels, respecting the legislative staff, respecting the members of the press for the job they have to do, respecting our advocacy groups, respecting our political opponents, respecting our political allies. Operating in a realm of mutual respect is sort of the mysterious secret key that unlocks a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities to get things done together. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Anastasia.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I just want to say what Representative Bloom said about humility, and that it is humble to stand up here and talk about what I'm going to talk about, which was 5 years ago, I was a stay-at-home mom and got very concerned about the out-of-control government spending, and the stimulus package for me was my final straw, and I had to do something and organized a tea party at Washington Crossing, and we had over 2,000 people on a beautiful day in April. And just like that, it was happening all over the country. It was a spontaneous movement. And I'm happy to be part of it, and I'm happy to be part of the very beginning of that movement. And, but before that, I was involved in the Republican Party. I was an assistant committee woman. I pushed my daughter Audrey around campaigning for Bush. I knocked on doors, but it was more, oh, okay, I'm going to be, I'm an assistant committee woman. I'll go leave these door hangers and stuff like that. But I didn't really take it seriously, and as far as really seeing that you can make a difference in that political process. So I think it's important for everyone up here to recognize that, yes, a lot of people woke up 5 years ago and, weren't involved at all. I was an assistant committee woman, but they wanted to become involved, and they went to their local Republican parties. And I've traveled all over the country, so this story is not unique to, my committee or, Pennsylvania. This is a national phenomenon, and a lot of them were not welcome with open arms. And I think that's starting to shift, because I think people within the party structure are realizing that, we're not going away. We are here to stay, and we want to have a seat at the table. And I think that a lot of people have run for local committee themselves and have become committee people, which I think is wonderful. I think that we should not be afraid of debate. I think that we need to have a big tent. I see a lot of young people on college campuses who we can get those people to become Republicans. And one of the ways is to, go after the ideas of the NSA and, the Fourth Amendment and what's happening. That is a big thing for the young people. So, and I also think that as far as some of the debates that we've had, we have been able to not agree 100% on everything, but again, that 80%, work with that 80%, and I see that happening. And I see as the movement has evolved, we're all getting to understand that we're here to stay, and the Republican Party and the Tea Party need to recognize one thing. We need the Republican Party, and the Republican Party needs the Tea Party. And with that, I think that I'm really starting to see a come together, and I'm really happy about it. And just like anything, you always have the beginning of anything, you have those edges that you have to rough out. And I'm seeing everything getting smoothed out, and that's the truth. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I look forward to more conversation about this.
Thank you, Anastasia, and I'd like to introduce Jean Barr.
Kevin, thank you, and at some point I'll be able to introduce you and get back to you for the introductory comment. Thank you very much. Great to be here on a Saturday morning with all of you. You know, like all of you, I've got a pretty hectic schedule. One of the things that I do enjoy doing in those spare moments that I do have is reading about American history. In my view, we can learn so many lessons from going back over the history of this great country and looking at what has happened before and adapting some of that to where we are today. One of the things, a lot of the reading that I do is actually on military history, which has the added benefit of really showing me the real sacrifice, the deprivations, what our men and women in armed services had to go through, particularly for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I know there's a lot of veterans in this audience today, so I'd like to thank you for your service. One of the books I finished a short time ago is a book called An Army at Dawn by a guy named Rick Atkinson, and the book won the Pulitzer Prize. And the book is about the beginnings of World War II, when the U.S. Army, working with its allies, was starting the campaign against Nazi Germany. And it was talking about the wrangling that the Allies went through, where and when to attack, and how do we do this, and the Americans wanted to go here, and the British wanted to go here, and they wound up in North Africa. And the book is the story of the North African campaign, and what was absolutely incredible to me, we hear a lot about the Allies, but when you look at this, the absolute bickering that went on, sometimes the real personal, and believe me, it got personal. Those of you who've seen the movie Patton know that George Patton and Bernard Montgomery used each other's names as profanities almost when it came out of their mouth. There were real fights among the Allies during that campaign that continued through a good bit of the war. The Americans didn't like the British didn't like the Americans, and once the French decided they were going to be with the Allies instead of the Germans, neither one liked them anyway. But what they realized was this. They realized that they all had a common goal. And that common goal at that point, obviously, was the liberation of Europe. And they were able to come together and set aside those differences that in the end really didn't matter all that much. Who took what city when? Really didn't matter all that much. What really mattered was that ultimate goal. And what really happens here in Pennsylvania, in my view, working with our friends up here and many of you in the audience, I believe that we share, and I know that we share that common goal, and that we, in my view, have worked together very well over the years in order to do that, because we share what really is important. We share the view and the goal for a smaller, more effective government. We share private sector job creation. We share the goal of creating opportunity for prosperity for everyone. And please, I know we do share this. We share the commitment to stop piling our kids and grandkids with mountains of debt. Now, let's not let any small differences that we have over how to get to that end goal, as the Allies did, let's make sure that we keep our eye on that, because let's be honest, the folks on the other side who want bigger government, who want many, many more taxes, who are not concerned whatsoever about debt, who really don't care about private sector job creation, it appears to me in many cases, they want to exploit and they want to magnify whatever small differences there are. Let's keep our eye on the common goal, and I believe that in that case, as we do here in Pennsylvania, I think that we can achieve much of that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene, and I'd now like to introduce Chairman Gleason.
Good morning, and I want to thank everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here this morning. I want to especially thank Lowman Henry, who is a member of the State Committee of Pennsylvania, who invited me to join the forum today. There are also many other members of the State Committee here today, and I want to thank them, and I want to thank all you for all your service. Many of you are Republicans, and although you belong to different organizations such as the Freedom Works and the Tea Party, but many of you are members of the Republican Party. So, you know, it isn't the Tea Party or the Republican Party or Freedom Works or the Republican Party. I consider everybody a member of our party. Anybody can run to be a member of the Republican State Committee, but we have 3.3 million Republicans in Pennsylvania, and there are millions and millions of other Republicans throughout the United States. I just happen to be the chairman now of the party. Anybody can be the chairman, be elected as the chairman by the members of the State Committee. Our job is to elect people. Every day I think about electing Republicans to the different positions around the state and the nation, because I'm a member, as I said, of the Republican National Committee. I don't govern. Our party doesn't govern. We do try to remind people about our platform. And if you're not familiar with our platform of the Republican Party, you really need to be. This is what guides me, and this is what guides our party. Every 4 years at the National Convention, we develop a new platform, and we'll do it next in 2016. The Republican State Committee does have the ability to amend the platform during the 4 years, but then a new one is written every 4 years. You too can be a delegate. Some of you have been delegates in the past, and you can have an input into writing this document. This is a wonderful document, and I want to say to you a couple of things that you probably don't know or you're not familiar with. This is the platform of the Republican Party. This platform affirms that America has always been a place of grand dreams and even grander realities. And so it will be again if we return government to its proper role, making it smaller and smarter. These are the things that you stand for and you want to do. If we restructure government's most important domestic programs to avoid their fiscal collapse, if we keep taxation, litigation, and regulation to a minimum, if we lift up the middle class, if we hand over to the next generation a legacy of growth and prosperity, rather than the entitlements and indebtedness. As we embark upon this critical mission, and this was of writing this platform, we are not without guidance. We possess the owner's manual, the Constitution of the United States, the greatest political document ever written. That sacred document shows us the path forward. Trust the people, limit government, respect federalism, guarantee opportunity, but not outcomes. Adhere to the rule of law. We affirm that our rights come from God and are protected by the government, that the only just government is the one that truly governs with the consent of the governed. That is the platform of the Republican Party. That's why you are Republicans, because of that. The Democratic Party platform is very, very different. So I thank you for all the things that you do. I do try to remind the members of the state legislature and the Congress and the governor about this platform when I have the opportunity. If they are doing things that do not fit into this platform, I do remind them. But I don't have a vote. But we all do have a vote every 4 years. We have a great party. We have done very well here in Pennsylvania, as you know. Imagine having 13 Republican congressmen from Pennsylvania. If you read the article in the paper the other day, that has thrown the Democrats on a national basis in a tizzy that Pennsylvania has 13 Republican congressmen. If they can't have a majority of the Congress in Pennsylvania, they will not control the House of Representatives. And the reason that we have 13 congressmen is because of you. It's because you have helped elect these people. You have helped elect Pat Toomey. You have helped elect every one of the people. You have helped elect Representative Bloom. They don't do it on their own. None of them do it on their own. We work together. We will re-elect Governor Corbett. Governor Corbett, if you really think about it, what he has done and been criticized for is living the mission of the Republican Party and following the Constitution of the United States. He deserves to be reelected. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Gleason. And as most of you know, the NFIB filed a lawsuit against against Secretary Sebelius over the federal health care law, and while we won the decisions, we actually came short out in the battle. While we found that Congress's power to compel us to do something is certainly limited, we found out that their power to tax is unlimited. We came close, we knocked on the door, but our next speaker is one of those that's part of a lawsuit that's going to knock the door down. Michael Geer with the Family Institute. He'll give his presentation next. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and all members of the panel. It's a great joy for me to be here with all of you. And if there's any question about conservatives working together from the different groups here in Pennsylvania, I think of Kevin Shivers as a rabid Yankees fan, working in the same building and alongside with David Taylor, who was born a Baltimore Orioles fan, and yet, well, David does have you in the basement, which is where he'd like your team to be as well. But in any event, that is one example of them getting along. Well, I do want to start this morning by thanking Fred Anton, Loman Henry, and all who are part of this great annual gathering. I have vivid memories myself of being at the very first PLC 25 years ago, because I was brand new to Harrisburg myself. As Kevin mentioned, it was 25 years ago that Pennsylvania Family Institute was started, and I have vivid memories, as I mentioned, of that first PLC. I was speaking on a panel, not unlike a panel like this. That panel was focused on family issues, as it was described then, and now it would probably more be likely to be described as social issues. And right next to me on that panel that morning was Peg Luksick. She was talking about school choice and parental rights. I was talking about, or I should probably say against, government efforts to create mandatory taxpayer-funded preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds in Pennsylvania, a proposal that we continue to stand against. Besides the fact that such a proposal, which again we still challenge today, creates more of what Jonah Goldberg talked about last night, people who feel more like they belong to government than to something else, to a family or church or community. More bluntly, proposals like that tend to create expansive government, or programs like that to create expansive government preschool programs, or just lightly veiled efforts to increase membership and dues collection for unions like the PSEA and SEIU. And as we talk about efforts to grow the big government party, these are the sorts of efforts I think that happen in legislation that end up growing that party all the more and fueling and funding that party. But I digress. That's not what I'm up here to talk about. As I mentioned, at the same time that PLC was coming together, so was the Pennsylvania Family Institute, and a number of folks that helped start the PLC get underway were involved in helping get the Pennsylvania Family Institute underway and instrumental in helping us start. These were folks that recognized that a full-orbed conservative movement, comprehensive conservative movement, involved all those who are part of that movement, those who majored on the economics issues front, those who were motivated more by the social issues. And it was understood that together we can accomplish much, and indeed we have, over these 25 years, accomplished much. And sometimes we can do little if we don't work together, and we've demonstrated that, and we've seen it demonstrated in other places and even here in Pennsylvania sometimes. But this morning, I do want to commend the foresight and wisdom of those PLC founders and leaders in setting forth and building a coalition of the various parts of the greater conservative movement, and this is an example of, this gathering today is an example of that, which created an effective model for cooperation towards common goals that have served this Commonwealth well for 2.5 decades and, Lord willing, for many, many years to come. And as I look through this room and look at this panel, I see people, leaders of various groups and organizations, legislators, grassroots activists, et cetera, that we at Pennsylvania Family Institute have worked with over the years. You could say that we have many PLC meetings all the time in Harrisburg, at PMA and other places where I see folks like Gene Barr or Kevin Shivers or Matt Briette or Colin Hanna or Dave Taylor or someone from one of the action groups around the state. many others as we gather on key issues and strategize about how to move things forward, understanding that we're much more strong together than apart. The cooperation reminds me a bit of an analogy that St. Paul talked about in the book of his letter to the Corinthians, his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, which talks about, for the body does not consist of one member, but many, and goes through that whole analogy of the different parts of the body that need each other. He says, the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor the hand to the feet, I have no need of you. And we need to recognize that because our opponents understand that. One need only look, for example, Kevin mentioned the lawsuit against the HHS mandate that Pennsylvania Family Institute, we brought, our legal center, Randy Wenger, our attorney, brought on behalf of Conestoga Wood Specialties, a Mennonite-owned company started in 1964 with 1,000 employees based in Lancaster County. This is a mandate that would require them to provide drugs, contraceptive drugs, including those that can cause abortions, for their employees. Now, the fine, if Conestoga Wood Specialties does not provide any health care to their employees at all, well, the tax is $2,000 a year per employee. The fine, if they provide complete health care coverage except for these drugs that they don't want to provide that cause abortions, is $36 million a year, $100 per day per employee. It's ruinous. But as you look, as we filed this lawsuit, which was argued before the United States Supreme Court last week, if you look at the briefs that were filed by the other side, you will find Planned Parenthood and labor unions and gay rights groups and all of them together against the freedom of a company to exercise their First Amendment rights because they work together. And we need to recognize that the unions and all of these different entities you've heard Matt and others talk about, and groups like Planned Parenthood, you can stop by our table and look at the political spending that they do consistently for Democrats, consistently against our movement, are examples of how they work together and accomplish much. And I'm glad to say that through the PLC and through these great friends we have here, we work together as well and look forward to great exploits in the future. Thank you.
First question, I'm going to start it off with Representative Bloom and then ask any others if you care to comment on that. And that is, obviously, and we heard this from the prior panel, there are many challenges that exist within the state legislature today, whether it's paycheck protection or other issues. And, the question is, what are your recommendations to strengthen the effectiveness of the conservatives within the Republican Party generally?
I guess in many ways that's a relatively easy question. It is get out there and vote, run for office, get activated in the political process, get off the sidelines and get on the playing field. That's what makes a difference. All of us who are sent to Harrisburg as representatives, we are representatives. That's the operative word. And we're only there with the consent of those who sent us there. And the only power we have is through the actual support of people who are willing to go out and vote. That's how we make a difference. That's how we change Pennsylvania. That's how we changed Pennsylvania in 2010. That's hopefully how we'll continue to move forward with change.
If I could add on to what Representative Bloom said, it is important for all of you, and the fact that all of you are here is absolutely crucial. I would ask all of you a couple of other things. One, please leave this room and go out and recruit more people to this side, not only because you know that there are many, many, many people out there who believe what you do, smaller government, private sector, job creation, all the things that we've talked about here, but we need to go recruit other people to express that. Virtually all of us up here have websites you could go to. I will use ours, protectpajobs.com. We will tell you about what issues are out there, the ones that you've heard about here today and others, and we'll tell you when you can take action on that. But we need significant involvement of people like yourselves, your family and friends and neighbors in order to turn this Commonwealth, continue to move this Commonwealth forward and move this country in the direction we know it ought to go. Thank you.
This question was directed to Anastasia. If you could provide some examples of how you are seeking the Tea Party and the Republican Party to be able to work together.
I think it's important to just admit that there was a time, and I know there's a lot of people here that really wanted to run for, let's say, state committee or local committee and was met with resistance. And that, I think that really needs to change. I think that we have really good ideas, and that enthusiasm that really did sweep the nation in 2010 was because of this movement. And, and I think that we need to feel that we're welcome. And, that is something, and, the Republican Party, which I have been a part of my whole life, is, needs to see that, okay, there's new people, new energies, maybe a couple of different ideas, and it's okay. It's okay, and we're gonna change with the times. And I think that what I'm seeing is that happening. I'm seeing less resistance, I'm seeing more acceptance. So that's a step in the right direction.
Any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we encourage people within our groups, all the grassroots, to run for office, run for local office, because it starts at the local level. The only way we're going to change anything in this country is starting at the local level, changing the parties, and I'm saying parties, from within, and getting new blood in there that will work together. And it's very important.
I would add that I was the Cambria County Republican chairman for many years, and I work closely with the chairman now. There is not the same intense interest that you people show. We have tried everything we can to get people to become a member of the party, to run for office, to do things. And that's in many of the counties. Pennsylvania is a big, diverse state. In several counties, the party isn't very strong. The people aren't very interested. In some of the counties where you live, it's a very strong party. They slate people for different offices. It's very difficult to bust through. But as Anastasia said, it's starting to change a little bit, and we welcome young people to get involved with the party. But go home and get involved with the local Republican Party. I think it's very important for you to do that. And I think there's many opportunities in many counties to become involved with our party.
Representative Bloom, you had a comment.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, two quick thoughts on this whole actual examples of working together. One of the things that happens in my county is, in the past, there used to be basically one political debate going into every election cycle, and it was sponsored by the League of Women Voters, held at a local university, and you know how those debates often go when those groups are involved. An amazingly positive development has been that our local 912 group has now consistently been conducting its own political debates, where it invites the candidates, and we have a public debate, but in a forum where conservative political ideas can be really worked into the questions, instead of the typical liberal bias you see worked into questions at political debates. That has really opened up the field in terms of understanding the issues, and it's an example of where Tea Party groups, 912 groups, are really helping the Republican candidates, the conservative candidates, get a message out without having to face that bias in a debate setting. And The other thing is, obviously, I think was already mentioned, run for local Republican Party committee seats. Our county is to me, it's a completely different makeup of the county Republican Party than what I saw even 4 years ago. It's really transformed by so many grassroots conservative activists deciding to get the 10 signatures you need to run for county committee and get elected, and it's a much more conservative, well, maybe not a conservative friendly place is the word, but a place where conservatives are welcome now because of the transformation in the makeup of the committee.
This question is directed first to Chairman Gleason, but then I'll ask others to comment as we have. Chairman, you had outlined the basic principles of the Republican platform: smaller government, empowering people to be able to succeed on their own, etc. Is it improper then for activists to challenge those incumbents who may not believe in the principles of the party?
No, not at all. I have no problem with that. I think that many times I call on incumbents and I ask them why they voted for something in a certain way. I'm not afraid about that. I mean, I don't care about that. What I want to do is, again, my number one job is to win elections. I want to win. And the second part is to make sure that they follow our platform. It's very disappointing that many members of our party, that has been pointed out today, are not supporting certain aspects that are critical to Pennsylvania. That they're not supporting the fact that we need liquor reform. They're not supporting the fact that we need pension changes. They're not supporting many different things that I support and our party supports. They don't get it. We continue to remind them. You should remind them. I think that's very important. And you should get involved. And one of the ways to get involved, it was said, is run for the county committee, work your way up. I mean, that's what I did. I've been doing this for so many years. It's been amazing. I started as a committee person in 1965 when I came back out of the service to my hometown. And I never thought I would be state chairman, and it's great to be doing this and try to make some things happen. We need all of you. We need your activity. I mean, in many ways, you are more active than a lot of the county committees around Pennsylvania. So I really appreciate your activism, and I look forward to more of it.
You know, we've talked a lot about the the role of the Republican Party here, and this question I'll direct to Gene. I mean, what's the role of the business community within this discussion?
Well, I think as we've said here quite a bit, it's finding those people that share what is important. And in our view, as I mentioned in my comments, it's private sector job creation. Government can create a job anytime they want. All they got to do is take enough money out of your pocket to create that job. And certainly we need certain government jobs. This is not to degrade any job, but we need private sector job creation in this Commonwealth and in this country. And we've made some strides in that. I think significant strides in the last few years because we finally adopted some policies. As was mentioned, not all of us are going, there's no single person that agrees with me 100% of the time, nor I agree with them 100% of the time. We have no legislator who is 100%. We agree that there are certain times that we simply don't see eye to eye, but I think that our goal and our role in the business community is to point out what we think it will take to create private sector jobs. And let me tell you, that's not raising the minimum wage well above what we can afford to hire somebody at. The minimum wage simply takes and targets those poor, unfortunate people who don't have the skills and abilities to get their foot in the door and says, sorry, we're going to slam the door on you. And it hurts overwhelmingly small businesses more than anybody else. So I think it's communicating those types of things that are out in the public arena and saying that's not how we move forward, that's not how we create opportunities, that's not how we create prosperity for our people, and we need to continue to articulate what will help Pennsylvania and this country move forward.
Diana, could you go into more detail of the personal freedom that is believed by the Tea Party movement?
Well, personal freedom is your right to choose, for your freedom to make choices about your health care, your money, and I encourage everyone to go to meetings anywhere that they are making decisions about your money and spending your money. They're the meetings you want to be at your local level. So personal freedom, everyone has personal freedom to do as they choose. And it's important that we all understand that government is not to run our life. And that's personal freedom, to be free. And we're not, right now, our country is not where it should be because the government is taking more control of our lives, or trying to, anyway. We're not going to put up with it.
And I just want to add, government goes to those who show up. And if there's a local school board, I mean, we need to be there. There's a lot of things that happen, Diana's absolutely right, where nobody comes. And so then these decisions are made, and then we all complain after the fact. So again, government goes to those who show up. So I think that's good.
You know, in our platform, again, in our platform, First Amendment, protect religious freedom. In our platform, speech is protected. The right, Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. Again, it's in our platform. You don't have to start a new organization to understand what we stand for. Liberty and privacy in the Fourth Amendment, protecting private property in the Fifth Amendment, affirming people's rights in the Ninth Amendment. So, you know, these are basic principles that you believe in and the Republican Party believes in. So we really, again, we love your support for those things. We have to make sure that we follow those things in the Constitution.
Next question is for Michael Geer. If he could describe or offer some examples where social conservatives and fiscal conservatives have been able to work together.
Well, there are many examples that I could give over the years, and I think of especially a tight and strong relationship we've had with Commonwealth Foundation, for example, over the years. But when you introduced me, you talked about the Reach Alliance, the school choice organization. You know, that the notion of giving parents the right to choose where they have their children educated, to use the tax dollars, to make the tax dollars that are collected by government mandate, to make those dollars portable so that they can choose the school that's best for their children, is a pro-family, pro-social conservative, pro-business, pro-freedom concept. And it is one example very significantly where we have worked together. On the child care issue, back when Sean Duffy was heading the Commonwealth Foundation, helped form a coalition that involved business groups and other groups as well, dealing with, let's do free market solutions to providing, if we're going to look at providing services, preschool services or some kind of daycare or child care options or whatever for parents, let's not do it in the public school mandated way, but let's provide options for that. So those are some examples. There are many others that probably could come to mind, but those are significant. I want to mention one other thing. Kevin, you mentioned the discipline that's imposed by the Democrat Party, the you will follow this or else party. You mentioned Patty Kim here in Harrisburg, and she's no conservative, but one little deviation from the way they want it. In Delaware County, there's a woman named Margot Davidson, African-American legislator, Democrat, no conservative. In 2011, she voted for legislation, abortion clinic legislation, that would simply require abortion clinics to follow the same guidelines as every other ambulatory outpatient surgical center has had to follow for decades. The reason this law was even considered in Pennsylvania, or at least was moving through the legislature, is because of the Gosnell scandal. Well, Margot Davidson, who was the only African-American legislator, one of the few Democrats who voted for that legislation to put these clinic regs into place, she stood to the floor to make that vote, and in her floor speech, she said, "I'm voting for this bill in honor of my cousin, Samika Shaw, who was killed in Gosnell's clinic." It's a very emotional thing to watch. She got an ovation from the fellow members on the floor that day. She now has a primary opponent sponsored by and backed by Planned Parenthood in that district, a man who is supported by the National Organization for Women over Margot Davidson, solely because she voted for a pro-life bill to honor her cousin. She has a strictly liberal record, and that is just an example of the complete intolerance. We see it today in the news. If you look at the news of the founder of Mozilla, the guy who invented or created JavaScript, what's his name, Brendan Eich. In 2008, this Mr. Eich, who is the CEO or was the CEO of Mozilla, you probably have Firefox browsers. This man, Mr. Eich, donated $1,000 in 2008 to the Proposition 8 campaign to keep marriage in California, the union of one man and one woman, which passed in California that year. It was supported, or at least the concept in 2008 was supported by President Obama. And yet Mr. Eich now has been forced and fired from that company simply because in 2008 he made a political donation to the cause of marriage. There is a growing intolerance that first started with, well, I won't go into much detail, but when we talk about religious liberty, when we talk about the freedom of businesses and business owners to do what they want, which is why we're in the lawsuit related to Conestoga Wood Specialties and Hobby Lobby, is encroaching, and they have the intolerance on their own candidates, on their own legislators, and it's coming into the business place, into the workplace, and quite frankly, into the family, and we need to stand up.
Final question is to Diana, and that is there are some national Republican speakers who are talking about the need to break the Tea Party, and the last question was, is the Tea Party movement going away?
Absolutely not. We're here to stay. We're getting stronger and stronger and stronger every day. And what has happened within this movement is we used to go to rallies and wave signs and be out there all the time. And now we've evolved into something different where we're not out there as much, so people think we're not there, but we are changing local government every day. We have people on school boards, we have committee people, state committee people, and we're not going away, and we're here to stay.
And again, and that's where I see the growth within the Republican Party. I think that there was resistance, and they now see that we're here to stay, and things are changing with the times. So I think there's a lot more acceptance than there was 5 years ago.
Well, there really has not been any resistance in the part of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. No, I say in the part of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. And we have had, well, I disagree with you, all right? What about Philadelphia? Well, anyway, I'm very pleased to have you all be Republicans and to continue to support the party. And if you want to change the party, I told you earlier, get involved, get elected, and change it to what you want to do. But remember, what we are doing is we are following our platform. These are the things you all stand for. You know, we're talking about marriage. Our governor is defending marriage. He stood up for marriage. Don't forget that. He has done a lot of great things as far as the things that you believe in. He's very conservative. He certainly deserves to be reelected. I'm happy to talk to you, any of you, afterwards, and tell me your thoughts about our party and what we can do better to make you more satisfied.
Yeah. And I think
Well,
that
I'm sorry, we're out of time, and we want to keep with the schedule. But thank all of you for being a part of the program today, and here's to the rest of the conference.
I don't feel cold about the calendar either.
Kevin, good job.
Just a reminder, the straw poll will be closing in 1/2 hour. So you have a half hour left to participate in the straw poll, which is over here under the Patriot Voices banner. So if you want to vote in the straw poll, please do it within the next half hour. Please welcome to the podium from the Manufacturers and Business Association of Pennsylvania, Lori Joint.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very honored to be here and even more honored to introduce the next speaker. As all of you in this room know, in today's political arena, a majority of those serving in Congress are unfamiliar with the risks and sacrifices associated with owning a business. They don't know what it's like to have their own skin in the game. We need representatives in Washington who understand the challenges of running a business, who understand the high price of overreaching regulations, who know what it takes to meet payroll and operate in a competitive environment. In short, we need them to understand the economic implications of their decision-making. Well, we are fortunate to have all of those things and so much more in Congressman Mike Kelly. Not only does he understand the issues, he's very vocal about them. Some of you may recall his red tape speech on the House floor that earned a standing ovation. He understands that it's the private sector that makes America great, not the government. And on top of all of this, he is a genuine, hardworking, and dedicated person with strong family and Christian values. He speaks from the heart, and he believes in this country. He has often said, it's not a red or a blue issue, it's an American issue. He is truly someone that I respect and admire. Congressman Kelly began representing Pennsylvania's 3rd legislative district in 2011. Currently in his 2nd term, he serves on the prestigious House Ways and Means Committee and chairs the Northeast Midwest Coalition that focuses on issues such as manufacturing and environmental policy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Congressman Mike Kelly.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here, and thank you for allowing me to be here. If you don't mind, I'm going to take off my coat. With my size, I don't get cold. So, first of all, last night was really interesting for me. Usually, I go to Republican events, and there's not much laughter. So, having Jonah Goldberg here and being able to laugh a little bit and be able to relax a little bit and have a little bit of fun, what's going on is fine. And I think that was necessary. I have a friend named Phil English, who I think is probably another version of Jonah Goldberg, just a little heavier, but just as funny. If you've ever been around Phil, there's nobody that can cut through to the chase quicker than Phil, and he does it in a way it's intellectually stimulating and really is humorous. So that was a great night. But we're here this morning for some totally different reasons. And we're here this morning because we are in decline as a nation. Now, people tell me all the time, you know what, you guys are so caught back in the 80s. You have a vision of America that's so different than the current population believes. You're so far disconnected with what America really is. You see, we actually need to be more like Europe. We need to be more like other people in the world because we have this one world view, and somehow by us diminishing our position, that we're actually going to be thought of as better. I don't buy that. And I know you don't. Now, as we've watched the unwinding of the last couple of weeks here, what's happened? Somehow the belief that you can lead from behind has grown eerily confusing to most of us. And we look and say, what in the world does that mean? Now, listen, I'm not here today to bash Barack Obama. He's doing a pretty good job of that on his own. His policies, his agenda, his drive to make America less exceptional is one that's maybe not just he that's doing it, but maybe it's been happening for too many years, for too many decades, and for too many of us, we've watched it happen. Now, I would just say to you, now I'm 65 right now. When I look back on my life, I look at the town and the times that I grew up in. I look at the parents and preachers and teachers and coaches, the grandmas and grandpas, the aunts and the uncles who made me what I am today and who made my generation what they are today. If you were scripting a movie, you could have not scripted a better time in American history. We had just accomplished many things. My father was a World War II participant. Before going off to war, he was a parts picker in a Chevrolet parts warehouse in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He rose pretty quickly in that position. When he came back from the war, he went back to work for Chevrolet. And in 1953, he opened a small dealership in a little town called Verona. It's a one-car showroom, had about 6 service bays. And it wasn't a 40-hour week that we worked and that he worked. He worked half days, actually. And it didn't matter if it was the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours. He just worked that every day. And he didn't work it 5 days a week, he worked it 7 days a week. Everything that we accomplished during those time periods was by people who really understood that there was equal opportunity. Maybe not equal outcome, but there was equal opportunity. And if you really worked hard, if you really stuck to your guns, if you really followed that path, the chances of you being successful were much greater than if you stayed in the sideline and said, you know what, somebody else is going to have to help me. I can't do it by myself. That's not true. That's not true. Because of the uniqueness of who we are, because of who we are as Americans, because of what our nation offers every single person, the opportunity for success is there. Now, where we are with Russia right now, and I can remember in the debates, and so do all of you, when we talked about who our greatest geopolitical rival was, and Governor Romney said Russia. And the president says, oh, the 80s are calling. They want their foreign policy back. This is the same man with the reset with Russia. This is the same man who, did you all remember the Coca-Cola commercial where everybody was around the globe and they were all holding hands and they were singing, would like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony? That's a concept. It's a great hope. It's a great wish. It's just not real. Maybe helping you sell Coke products, but not to make sure that we understand where we are uniquely positioned in the world. We're not just somebody who stands on the side and watches. We're not just somebody who weighs in from time to time. We're not just a country that sits to the side and says, if you really need us, call us. We're certainly not a country that can believe that leading from behind somehow makes sense to what's going on in the world today. The geopolitical consequences of what our agenda is right now and our strategy is right now is that we decline as a nation. We were always the first responder anytime there's an attack on human rights, anytime there's an act of nature, who is the first responder? It's always the United States. It's America. It's just who we are. It's the blood that courses through our veins. It is the fabric of what this country was founded on. And if we ever think that somehow we've grown weary of that role, that somehow we no longer have the appetite to join our friends when they need us, that somehow we can turn a blind eye or a deaf ear from atrocities that are happening around the world, then we are no longer the America that the founders put together. We are no longer the America that over 1,400,000 men and women in uniform gave their lives to protect. We are no longer the America that the world needs, because even Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War said we are the last best chance this planet has. And last night we saw some clips of President Reagan. I would just submit to you that President Reagan, again, when we look back to the times and the places that we came from a very different place than the place that most of our kids see now. He was a World War II combatant. He saw the world in a completely different light. He saw the world as it had been and what America's efforts had brought about. He had a unique understanding of what those times had brought to America and also the responsibilities that came with it. And he said, we can never tire. We can't walk away from this responsibility that we have. So fast forward to today. I think I heard it was Secretary Kerry when Russia made its grab of the Ukraine and said, listen, this is the 21st century. This is not the way we do things. You know what? I mean, could you be in more denial of what the world is like? It may be the 21st century, but the very fabric of what this world is made up of has not changed. Time may have gone on, the calendar may have turned over, the clock may have ticked a little bit further, but inherently there will be bad actors. And the only thing that keeps bad actors in place are good people and strong countries that have the ability to hold them down to where they are. The geopolitical consequences of our current strategy is that the world is a more dangerous, more chaotic place. It's not safer because we want it to be safer, and all the wishing and the hoping in the world won't get us there. Only through strong action, only through a strong presence, only through a strong America does the world have a chance. Now, I'm not one of those people that said, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm very proud of my country. Not chest-thumping pride that we're America, we're the best, we're number one. I base it on history. Please tell me, at any other time in all of history, did another nation ever step forward and accomplish the things that our nation has accomplished? To advance human rights, to take care of those who are the most vulnerable. There is no other place in the world like this. Some of you have had the chance, as I have, to travel around the world. One of the things that was unique for me, because being in Congress, every once in a while we get to bring interns into our office. And there was a kid named Aaron McCollum. Aaron McCollum was from Northern Ireland. And when I interviewed him, I said, now, Aaron, I see you're from Northern Ireland. He goes, yes, I am, Representative. I said, are you a Catholic or are you a Protestant? He goes, I'm Protestant. I said, okay, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is don't blow up the office, okay? And he laughed a little bit, and we really got a very good relationship. On Aaron's last day, I had come from Mass, and I said, Aaron, I'll meet you after Mass. In fact, you can go with me if you want. He said, no, that's okay, but I will meet you. And I said, okay, so we met after Mass, and as we were having breakfast, I said, Aaron, I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to have you with us for the last 3 months. And he says, well, you know, Representative, I appreciate that. I really do. I said, well, here's the thing, Aaron. I think you got to understand. The Irish have such a cuteness about them. And Aaron was on the phone. So he's in Washington, D.C., and he's taking calls from all over Pennsylvania's 3rd District. Now, while I've been elected and I've represented the 3rd District for 2 terms, it wasn't everybody in those districts that liked me. There's quite a few people in there that really don't agree with anything I say and don't agree with anything I've done, and quite frankly, they're the people that call the most often. But I want you to think about something. They would call mad and angry over something. I can't even tell you what it would be. Mad and angry over something, and Aaron would pick up the phone, and I want you just to, in your own mind, think about this. You're mad, you're angry, and you're going to call your congressman, and you're going to let him know, hey, you know what? You're not representing me the right way. I don't agree with anything you're doing, and I got to tell you, I'll never vote for you again. The phone rings, and Aaron picks it up and says, good morning. Representative Kelly's office, how can I be of service? And they say, wait a minute, what are you doing there? I said, oh, the representative has me here from Ireland, but I'm here helping him out a bit. Now, what do you need? Now, I've been in business for a long time, and I got to tell you, and all of you face the same thing. The one thing that bothers me more than anything else is my phone call being answered by a computer. And you go through 15 different prompts, and at the end it says, or push 0, and an operator will help you. I said, well, for God's sake, just do that at the beginning, and I won't have to go through all this. Who answers your phone is critical. And the message that they put out is critical. And the stage that they set is critical. Not only in a congressional office, but also in your homes and in your churches and in your schools and in your businesses. It just is. And certainly in the world. Which brings me to, so what the heck does this have to do with anything with America and exceptionalism? The last couple of moments I spent with Aaron, he goes, I said, Aaron, is there anything that you would like me to tell my colleagues. He says, there is. I said, what is it? He says, you know, Representative, we kind of liked you better when you were a little cocky. You know, you don't have to go around the world apologizing for who you are. You've done great things. And we all, in truth, would like to be you, but we know we can't. He says, so when you're with your mates and you're talking to them, tell them it's okay every once in a while to take credit for being the greatest country in the world. And I want you to think about that. Why would a kid from Northern Ireland have a better opinion of the United States than a kid from Northern Pennsylvania? Because of the way they were raised, because of what they knew to be true, because of the way they were taught. And I said earlier, I came from a very great town in a very great time. The people who taught me had worked their way through the Great Depression. They had won a great world war. They had restored order in the world. Those folks are all gone. They're no longer in our classrooms. My grandparents are gone. My mom and dad are gone. My aunts and uncles are gone. My dad, towards the end of his life, we were traveling, and one day a week I would take him out for a little travel, and we would go anywhere he wanted to go. We always ended up back around Houtsdale, Pennsylvania. And why Houtsdale? Why would we end up in Westover? Why would we end up in Hastings? And I'll tell you why. My dad was one of 9. My grandfather was a conductor on the B&O Railroad. They never owned a car, and the only person in my dad's family to ever wear a new pair of shoes, a new pair of pants, or a new shirt was his brother John. And not because John was exceptional, it's because John was the oldest. And then it got handed down. As we would travel, I would look across the seat at my dad and say, Dad, tell me, what was it like? Well, you know, he'd say, son, during school, we were in Pittsburgh. As soon as school was out, my parents would send us up into the country to stay with the relatives because they just couldn't feed all 9 of us. Everybody got a little, but nobody ever got a lot. Everybody got by, and they understood that that's what had to happen. So when I would ask my dad these things, I would say, gosh, this is incredible. This is incredible. Boy, what you went through, so hard. And he would go talk about getting through the Depression, getting through World War II, and all these things. I want you to think about this. I looked across at this 89-year-old man who's smoking a pipe and looking out at the countryside and remembering what it was like in the 30s when he was a kid going up there for the summer because he absolutely loved it. So I said to him, I said, Dad, you know, gosh, it must have been so hard. How did you do it? He looked across at me and he took his pipe out. He said, what did you just say? I said, it must have been hard. How did you do it? You know, he looked at me. He wasn't angry, but he was forceful. He said, it wasn't an option. If you think that it was easy, if you think that at some point we didn't want to quit, if you think at some point we weren't weary and we weren't tired, if you think at some point we didn't think it was worth it, you're right, we did think that way. But you know what we knew? It was up to us to make it different, to get through. That's what they believed. Listen, I don't want to sit here today again and tell you too much about the old days, because we're not in the old days anymore. But we certainly are, the sum total of who we are is made up of all those experiences, is it not? Each one of us, very uniquely, are the sum total of those who raised us, of those who taught us, of those who coached us, and of those who just brought us along. They took us to church. They took us through the early part of life. They got us ready to accept the challenge that we may have. And that's one of the things my dad said to me. He said, you know, the trouble with your generation, he said, sure, you had Vietnam, which really was long and lengthy, and a lot of people didn't like. He says, if you think we like World War II, you're crazy. If you think I like growing up in the Great Depression, you're crazy. But I also want you to know this. If you think it's not going to happen again, you also are crazy on that one. There will come a time in your life where you will be challenged. There will come a time in your life when everything will go upside down and everything you thought to be true and everything you thought would last forever will no longer be available to you. And at that point, you're going to have to drive yourself forward. You're going to have to pull from something inside that's already been placed in there by somebody else, and it's your ability to survive. That's what you're going to need to do, because for your generation, you have had it too good for too long. And you don't realize the price that was paid for it because you have a very short view of world history. He says, I don't. Now, I've been here, and he says, this is what he told me. The night before he died, this is what my father said to me. He came out into this little place. We all were spending time with him. He was fine. He was just getting old. He came out, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting out in an easy chair, and he came out and he said, hey, do you mind if I sit with you for a minute, son? I said, no, Dad, sit down, fine. I said, how you doing? He goes, okay. He said, I got to get out of here. Now, this is in February, right? I said, geez, Dad, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's snowing out there. It's cold. Where did you want to go? He looked at me and said, what did you ask me? He said, where did you want to go? He goes, heaven. I said, heaven? He goes, my gosh, I've been here too long. It's time for me to move on. I haven't seen your mother now for about 10 years. I haven't seen my parents longer than that, my brothers and sisters and my army buddies and everybody else. They've all been up there waiting for me. And I said, you're not scared about this at all? He goes, why would you be afraid of this? He said, I've got to go through this to get there. He said, I've already paid my dues, but there must be one thing left that he wants me to do. I wish he would let me know what it is so that I can go home. That's American exceptionalism. Still thinking at 89 years old and 2 months shy of his 90th, there was still something to be done. Not to ask for a pat on the back, not to ask for somebody to say, boy, you've done a great job, Dad. You know what he was looking for? Something else that he had to do. Now fast forward to where we are today. What is it that we're looking for? And I would just submit to you this. You know what America's looking for? A champion. A champion. That's what we're looking for. Where will the champions come from? The same places they have always come from. They'll come right from here. We self-generate them. The young people of today will be asked to grab the baton from those of us in the past and to carry it forward in this relay race called life. The only thing we don't want to do is put them in a position where they're too far behind somebody who's in front of them. The race can be won if everybody that runs a leg of it runs it to the best of their ability. That's the only way you keep the lead. Now, we talk about all the wonderful things that America needs to do. And I keep hearing about, well, we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to do this. I say, that's fine. But you know what? That is idle chatter if we don't understand that your heart may be willing, but your wallets are weak. I want you to look at this economy that we're in right now. Please tell me why America is where it's at right now, growing at a 1.7 or 1.9 growth a year, and then having a president who says, but you know what, this is the new normal. This is what we're going to have to accept. So when I talked to our youth, I said, no, that was never the America that I was told I was going to inherit. That was never the America that said to me, listen, you're going to have a chance, it's going to be much smaller than it used to be. You're never really going to be able to reach your full potential, and you know why? There's just too many people out there that don't want you to get there. There's too many of those who say, yeah, I want you to play by the rules as long as I win. Now, the president has become a great divider, not a great uniter. He has said things that make sense to none of us. When did you ever think in your life that the same man that just slashed your work week by 25% would say the real problem is that our minimum wage isn't where it should be? What are we talking about? When in America did we ever talk about the minimum wage being our goal? Raising the minimum wage is our goal. Really? How about the maximum wage? How about the ability to become almost anything you think of, anything you could possibly imagine? And it doesn't matter what your last name is. It doesn't matter where you worship or even if you worship at all. It doesn't matter about the color of your skin. None of it matters. In this country, we all have that shot as long as we keep the roads open, as long as we keep that path to prosperity open. So when we talk about American exception, I'll tell you what, I want America to be able to respond, be the first responder anytime that happens. How do we do it? Through a dynamic and robust economy. That's how we do it. It's that simple, and I want you to think about it because we'll talk about all different issues and where we need to be. We'll talk about education, we'll talk about health care, we'll talk about everything, but we don't talk about enough Where does the revenue come from? How do we pay for these things? How are we able to support the most vulnerable? How are we able to take care of the future if we don't take care of the present? How are we able to sit back and say the greatest challenge that our generation ever had confronted us and we took a pass on it? We decided that it was too hard to do the right thing. We decided that the next election was more important than the direction the country was going in. We decided that if we could just change the narrative, if we could just somehow put the spotlight somewhere else on somebody else and make them the problem, them the villain, and us the victim, then the victim wins and the villain dies. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about something right now. I want you, in your mind's eye, to think about a place in the world that has abundant sources of energy that are very accessible, that are very affordable. Energy that is centuries worth of it right beneath our feet. Energy that would give us an advantage over everybody else in the world. Now, I want to tell you something. I'm not a guy that ever wants us to be dumbed down to the point that we're at the level other people are. I want us to always be that country that's leading the way. And the reason I want us to be in that position is because we're the only ones that share. Nobody else does. So if we have abundant, accessible, and affordable energy for centuries, and we have technology that's drawing it out even longer, and if we have 1/5 of the world's fresh water sitting at our northern boundaries, 1/5 of the world's fresh water at our northern boundaries. No other place in the world has this. And if we're able to produce food, and our production per acre is greater than any place else in the world, so if we can be self-reliant on energy, if we have the best drinking water in the world, and if we can feed ourselves, then what in the world is missing? Leadership. The only thing that's missing in this country right now is dynamic leadership, not dynamic assets. We have everything right here, right now. What a sin it would be to let it pass. I can see by the clock I'm out of time. I told you earlier, I'm 65 now, and I kid all the time. I tell people, I know I'm in the fourth quarter. I'm just hoping I'm early in the fourth quarter. Listen, America has never had greater opportunity than it has right now. America has never been more uniquely positioned than it is right now to reach the full greatness that the Lord's provided us with. The only thing I want to ask you to do, and I heard some of the conversation up here, I know that our friends on the other side, by the way, they have a policy. It goes something like this: there's no secrets in our family. There's just a lot of things we don't talk about. In our family, it's just the opposite. There's a lot of things in our family we don't like, and you know what we like to do? We like to tell the world how we don't get along. Let me tell you something. I wish it were different. It's a two-party system. And there's many things I don't like sometimes about the way we're going in our strategy. We don't agree on that. But you know what I know? We're the only ones that's going to get America back to where its greatness needs to be. These other people don't believe what you and I believe. They are wired differently. So, listen, enjoy your weekend. Mr. Anton, thank you so much for doing this. You have done a great job of bringing us all together. The only thing I would ask when we leave these rooms and we go home, talk to your sons and daughters. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Talk to those people you have coffee with after church on Sunday. Talk to those people with the school boards. Talk to those people that you walk with and talk with every day and tell them it's okay to weigh in. It's okay not to be politically correct. It's time to start taking back America. And there's no better time than now, and there's no better people to do it than you. Thank you so much, and God bless you.